Title: The Curse of America's Deadliest Lake, The True Horror of Lake Lanier. Before you go any further, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment, because what you're about to hear is not a legend, not a rumor, and not fiction. This is a real American place where hundreds of people have gone into the water and never come back out the same way. Lake Lanier stretches across northern Georgia, less than an hour from Atlanta. On the surface, it looks peaceful. Wide blue water, calm coves, families boating on weekends, children swimming near the shore. It is advertised as a vacation destination, a place to relax, fish, and cool off during the summer heat. But beneath that calm surface is a history many locals refuse to swim over. Before Lake Lanier existed, the land beneath it was home to entire communities. Roads, farms, churches, and cemeteries once stood where the water now rests. In the 1950s, the U.S. government flooded the area to create a reservoir. Homes were destroyed, trees were cut down halfway, and entire towns were submerged. Many structures were never fully removed. Locals say the lake was rushed, and the dead were not all relocated. From the moment the lake opened, accidents began to happen. At first, they were explained away. Boats collided. Swimmers drowned. People slipped, fell, or made mistakes. But as the years passed, a disturbing pattern emerged. The number of deaths at Lake Lanier far exceeded similar lakes across the United States. Experienced swimmers disappeared. Strong boaters drowned in calm conditions. Entire families witnessed loved ones pulled under without warning. One of the earliest widely reported cases involved a young man named Michael Evans. He was an experienced swimmer, familiar with the lake, and had grown up in the area. On a clear summer afternoon, he dove in near a dock where he had swum dozens of times before. Witnesses watched him resurface once, then struggle. They described it as if something had grabbed his leg. He went under again and never came back up. Search teams recovered his body hours later, far from where he had gone under. As years passed, stories like Michael's multiplied. In 1994, two teenagers, Mark Stevens and Ryan Cole, were tubing behind a boat when they were thrown into the water. Mark resurfaced. Ryan did not. Conditions were calm. Visibility was clear. Mark screamed for help, insisting his friend had been pulled down. Divers later found Ryan tangled in submerged debris, remnants of structures left behind when the lake was created. By the early 2000s, local authorities quietly acknowledged a problem. Lake Lanier was now considered one of the deadliest lakes in America. Official numbers vary, but estimates place the death toll at well over 700 people. Some years, multiple drownings occurred within the same week. Families began reporting the same unsettling details. They said the water felt colder in certain areas. They said their limbs felt heavy without explanation. They said they heard voices calling them deeper. These accounts were never included in official reports, but they were shared among locals in hushed conversations. Longtime residents warned newcomers not to swim after sunset. Fishermen avoided specific coves. Boat operators spoke of engines cutting out in the same places again and again. One woman, Sarah Mitchell, survived an incident that changed her forever. She was swimming with friends when she felt her ankle caught. At first, she assumed it was seaweed or debris. Then the pressure tightened. She described the sensation as fingers wrapping around her leg. She was pulled under briefly before her friends dragged her back. When she reached the surface, she was screaming and shaking uncontrollably. No marks were found on her body. No debris was attached to her leg. After that, Sarah refused to go near the lake again. As more deaths accumulated, investigators began looking beyond simple accidents. They documented submerged structures, standing trees, and sharp debris hidden just below the surface. Sonar scans revealed entire neighborhoods preserved underwater. Roads still ran beneath the lake. Foundations still stood. In some areas, visibility dropped to zero within seconds. Despite these findings, something still didn't add up. Many victims were found far from any debris. Some were discovered upright, as if standing underwater. Others were found in locations that currents could not explain. Divers reported equipment malfunctions and sudden drops in temperature without warning. Yet the lake remained open. Tourism continued. Real estate flourished along the shoreline. Officials reassured the public that the lake was safe if proper precautions were taken. But locals knew better. They didn't need reports or statistics. They had seen too many funerals. By the time national media began calling Lake Lanier cursed, families of the victims were already exhausted. To them, it wasn't a curse. It was a place that never let go once it took something from you. And Lake Lanier wasn't finished. As Lake Lanier's reputation grew, so did the number of investigations into why so many people were dying there. State officials pointed to obvious hazards: submerged trees, old foundations, and uneven terrain left behind when the land was flooded. These explanations were logical, measurable, and safe for public statements. But privately, even experienced rescue divers admitted that the lake behaved differently. Dive teams assigned to Lake Lanier reported unusual conditions during recovery missions. Some described sudden drops in visibility, even in shallow areas. Others said their equipment malfunctioned without warning. Communication lines went silent. Compasses spun. Divers surfaced early, shaken, unable to explain what went wrong. One veteran diver, James Porter, later spoke anonymously to a journalist. He said there were areas of the lake he refused to enter again. According to him, there were moments when it felt like the water was moving the wrong way, pulling instead of flowing. His team documented temperature changes that could not be explained by weather or depth. Meanwhile, families continued to report disturbing similarities. Victims often vanished quickly. There was rarely prolonged struggle. Many were described as calm moments before going under. Witnesses said it happened too fast, too quietly. In 2011, a boating accident claimed the lives of two men, both wearing life jackets. The jackets were later recovered still fastened. One of the men was found upright beneath the water, feet touching the lake bed as if standing. Officials ruled it accidental drowning. The family was never satisfied with the explanation. Stories spread of people hearing voices near the waterline, of swimmers feeling watched, of sudden panic without cause. Mental health experts dismissed these claims as fear-driven reactions amplified by the lake's reputation. But that explanation failed to account for how often these reports came from first-time visitors with no prior knowledge of the lake's history. One park ranger, Thomas Reed, worked near the lake for over 20 years. He told colleagues there were days when the lake felt wrong. He noticed animals avoiding certain areas. Birds stopped landing near specific coves. Fish activity dropped without explanation. Reed never made these observations official. He said no one wanted to hear it. The deeper investigators looked, the more complicated the story became. Cemeteries had been moved before flooding, but records showed that some graves were never relocated. Sonar scans revealed shapes consistent with old burial grounds. Wooden markers long since eroded rested beneath layers of sediment. Divers confirmed the presence of human remains in areas not associated with modern drownings, likely predating the lake itself. For families who had lost loved ones, these discoveries were devastating. To them, Lake Lanier was not just dangerous. It was disrespectful. A place built over homes, histories, and the dead, without fully accounting for what was left behind. Still, officials resisted calls to restrict access or drain the lake. The economic impact would be enormous. Instead, warning signs were installed. Life jacket campaigns were launched. Safety advisories were issued every summer. The deaths did not stop. Between 2014 and 2020, dozens more drownings were recorded. Some occurred in shallow water. Others involved experienced swimmers and athletes. Rescue efforts often failed despite immediate response. Families reported that their loved ones seemed to disappear beneath the surface instantly, as if pulled downward. By now, Lake Lanier had gained international attention. Journalists, paranormal investigators, and documentary crews arrived. Authorities distanced themselves from anything labeled supernatural. They focused strictly on physical hazards. But even those explanations left unanswered questions. Why did so many victims describe the same sensations before going under? Why were bodies found in impossible positions? Why did the lake claim lives year after year, despite awareness and precautions? For those who lived nearby, the answer was simpler. Lake Lanier was never meant to exist the way it does. And it was reminding people of that fact. Today, Lake Lanier remains open to the public. Families still visit. Boats still cut across the water. Children still swim near the shore. On the surface, nothing appears wrong. But for those who know its history, the lake is never truly calm. Many locals refuse to swim there. Some won't even let their children wade into the water. Fishermen avoid specific areas passed down through generations as unsafe. Divers speak carefully when asked about the lake, choosing their words as if afraid of offending something unseen. In recent years, reports of drownings have continued. Some victims were found days later. Others were never recovered. Each incident follows the same pattern. Calm conditions, no clear explanation, families left searching for answers that never come. Psychologists suggest that fear, suggestion, and environmental hazards explain everything. They say the human mind fills in the gaps when tragedy strikes. But that explanation doesn't comfort those who stood nearby when someone vanished beneath the surface in seconds. Families of the victims often describe the same emotional aftermath: confusion, guilt, anger, and a lingering sense that something was left unfinished. Many say the lake feels like it holds on to grief, that it never releases what it takes. Some have reported dreams of their loved ones standing underwater, looking up, unable to speak. Authorities maintain their position. Lake Lanier is dangerous, but not cursed. Accidents happen. People make mistakes. Water is unpredictable. These statements are technically true, but they fail to explain why Lake Lanier stands apart from other lakes with similar conditions. The truth may never be officially acknowledged. What remains undeniable is the number of lives lost, the patterns that repeat, and the stories that refuse to disappear. Lake Lanier exists today as both a recreational destination and a graveyard hidden beneath water. Those who respect it keep their distance. Those who ignore its history take their chances. And every year, when another life is lost, the same question returns. Was it just an accident? Or is Lake Lanier still claiming what was buried beneath it?